I think my boyfriend is trying to push our relationship off onto his friend. And wife had emotional affair with gamer friend. I think my boyfriend is trying to push our relationship off onto his friend. As the title suggests, I believe that my 24-year-old female boyfriend, 26-year-old male, is trying to actively move me to date his best friend. I've been dating my boyfriend, we'll call him Michael, for about a year now. We've known each other for years previous because we've always been in the same friends group since high school. His best friend, we'll call him John, has also been someone I've known for a long time because he's also in the group. John had asked me out years ago, but I turned him down because he's always been somewhat of a cocky guy who could never see he was ever wrong. Many people find him charming, but I think smarmy is a better word. He seemed offended, but brushed it off and even told people that I asked him out, and he rejected me, which was fine because it didn't affect my life at all. After a few months, all was forgotten, and we just pretended the other one didn't exist, and that's how we've been for years. Until Michael asked me out randomly and I decided to give it a shot. It turned out we had a lot of similar hobbies and really had a good time, so we started dating shortly after that. About 6 months ago, Michael started to act strange, but in really subtle ways. I would talk about how much I loved animals, and he would interject that John just loved animals. Which wouldn't be weird, but he did it with everything I talked about, with even the slightest bit of enthusiasm. If I loved it, John loved it just as much. He told me how compatible me and John were, and how he wished we meshed more. I eventually told Michael I really didn't care what John liked because he was kind of pretentious and we never got along. He seemed really offended but quickly recovered, and by the next day, everything was good again. About a week after that instance, Michael would talk up John randomly and with seemingly no reason. "Hey, I talked to Brittany yesterday. And man, John is apparently a god in bed, haha. Maybe I should ask the guy for tips. John is volunteering at that shelter we went to a couple weeks ago. What a guy. We should have John make us dinner, he's a great cook." Every day to every other day, I had to hear about John's greatness, and it was to the point I initially thought that Michael wanted to date John. Then, 3 weeks ago, after we had some drinks, he asked me, "If we ever broke up, would you date someone else in the group?" I had no idea what to say because it was so random, but he quickly filled the void by saying, "I think I would if I were you and John was single." Seriously? So, 3 days ago, I confronted him in the kitchen and told him that if he had anything he wanted to tell me, I would listen to it no matter what, and that I would always be there for him. He seemed confused and told me he had no idea what I meant by that. So I brought up all the times he talked about John and how he would date him, and told him that if he really wanted to date John, I understood and would support him. After all, they're best friends, so they obviously have a good connection. When I say he blew up, I cannot stress how angry he got. He used a dozen slurs for gay people and said he was disgusted I saw him like that and he would never do something like that. We ended up getting in a huge fight over it, because I certainly don't support his language or attitude towards LGBTQ folks, and that it was just a vibe I got from him and I didn't mean to mislabel him. We haven't really talked, but he's staying at his parents' house right now. And today, John called me to tell me he doesn't support Michael's attitude towards me, and invited me over to talk about it, even saying that Michael was 100% okay with it. Am I crazy? Am I just making up some convoluted story in my head, or is this bizarre? Long story short, my boyfriend hypes up his best friend to me and talks about how compatible we are, and I'm worried he's trying to push me towards a relationship with him. You should ask him why he's trying to set you up with John. You should also break up with Michael. Random theory, but do you think there's any chance John may have asked Michael to date you and eventually persuade you into wanting to date him instead, since you turned him down initially? Just since your friend group is so close, it reminded me of a fictional story where that happened to the main character. She had turned down a guy only to end up dating his best friend a little while later. Their relationship was fine, but soon he would also start taking up his friend constantly and would set up hangouts for the three of them, and bail until the girl was seduced by the original guy who had asked her out, after hearing about him so much from his best friend. This is probably outrageous and not true, but I don't know, it's a thought and what my mind first went to. Wife had emotional affair with gamer friend. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, married for a little over a year. We share our home with her parents at the moment, and her mom can cause issues here and there when she drinks. Very toxic behavior. She and my wife got into a huge fight one time earlier this year, and my wife left in anger despite me trying to get her to stay. During this time, my wife started talking to a Fortnite buddy of hers about the situation. I guess I wasn't there the way she needed me to be. I guess they continued to speak afterwards and grew to like each other. Fast forward to the last week of August. My wife likes to dye her hair, and I try to be a good husband by helping her. I've done this before marriage even. I happened to reach for her phone and she immediately grabbed it, and I thought this was odd, so I spoke on it. She told me she was trying to buy me something and didn't want me to stumble upon it. I would have believed her if she didn't just buy me something a week ago. It's normal for us to do such a thing when buying for each other. She got emotional and upset that I didn't believe her, as if it offended her. I apologized, and she asked me to promise to never think such a thing again. 4 days later, she came home from work and basically told me she didn't want to be with me anymore. After back and forth of a little arguing, I got her to admit there was another guy, the one mentioned earlier. I lost it, and she immediately changed gears and felt awful and said it was never supposed to happen that way. She still wanted to meet him afterwards to make sure her feelings weren't real. But I refused. We fought about that for a while, and she stayed at the hotel that night, by her own choice. She came home in the evening while it was still dark out, crying and apologizing to me. She got rid of everything that had to do with the guy, and I chose to forgive her. I would be lying if I said I didn't think about it regularly. Should I stay with her? She really has been trying to make me see that she is sorry. It's almost been 2 months since. The guy also doesn't live in the same state. She got rid of everything that had to do with that guy and chose to forgive her. Or now she's going to be really good at hiding things from you. I was in your situation, but it was a 20-year relationship ruined by her emotional affair with a gamer friend. She chose to bring up another man into the marriage. She chose to feel she didn't need couples counseling. So I chose to leave. It was difficult. It was painful. Dating again was awkward. But I found a truly wonderful woman who has shown me what a loving relationship should be. I view my experience not as what my ex-wife did to me, but rather what she did for me. It's extremely difficult to see while you're in it, but you're in a bad relationship and living in an emotionally unsafe environment. What would your advice be? Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think.